Hello, teachers, parents, and educational leaders, and welcome to this episode of Breaking Down the B.E.S.T. Now, during this episode, you will get a peek into the members-only area where I have tons of resources to help you make math fun, make it click, and make it stick. There should be a link somewhere around this video where you can learn more. All right, now that we got that out of the way, let's get to it, and let's break down the standard. Welcome to Breaking Down the B.E.S.T, a video series dedicated to breaking down Florida's best standards for math. So grab something to write with and maybe even a snack. This looks good. And don't forget to put a smile on your face. There you go, I see you. And let's dive into today's best standard. Hey everyone, my name is Sarah McCarthy and I'm super excited that you are joining me as we break down the following standard. Today's standard is MA.4.FR.2.1 and this standard says to decompose. That means to break down. We're going to decompose a fraction including mixed numbers, and mixed numbers are a combination of a whole number and a fraction, and we'll be working with fractions greater than 1, also known as improper fractions, where the numerator is greater than the denominator. So we'll decompose all these fractions, mixed numbers, and fractions greater than 1 into a sum of fractions with the same denominator in multiple ways. The standard also says to demonstrate each decomposition, each breakdown, with objects, drawings, and equations. So you can see right here where I highlighted multiple ways to decompose. There are two examples right here that 9/8, for instance, can be decomposed as 8/8 plus 1/8, or it could be 3/8 plus 3/8 plus 3/8 will give you 9/8. Taking a fraction, breaking it down into the sum of a fraction. By the way, this document that I'm marking up all over is not something that I created. This is something that the Florida Department of Education releases to the public. And in these Breaking Down the B.E.S.T episodes, I'm just showing you how I use what they provide to break down the standard, to analyze it in order to create the resources that are strategically aligned to the standards in your taking on the B.E.S.T membership. So we'll spend about half of the video breaking down the standard and really understanding it, and then we'll pop over to the website and I'll show you all the resources that you have available for this standard at the second half of the video. So let's go ahead and continue. Just one benchmark clarification for today, and it says that denominators are limited to halves, thirds, fourths, fifths, sixths, eighths, tenths, twelfths, sixteenths, and hundredths. Now you might think that going all the way to 100 is a huge jump, but that's because in 4th grade there's a lot of providing equivalent fractions between tenths and hundredths. Going from fractions to decimals, a lot of work there, and that is why that denominator limit is there of 100. All right, so how does this relate to other benchmarks in 4th grade? Well, we have MA.4.FR.2.1, and that is the equivalent fractions benchmark. We also have MA.4.AR.1.2, where we are adding and subtracting fractions in real-world situations. And finally, the next standard that we'll cover, which is MA.4.FR.2.2, I went ahead and added that one in there, which is adding and subtracting fractions with like denominators. So the difference between that AR and the FR standard there, they both have to do with adding and subtracting fractions, but the difference is that one is more embedded in a real-world setting, the AR strand, and the FR strand is more about the skill, the process of actually adding and subtracting fractions, okay? Your students need to know what an expression is, and that would be like this: 3/8 plus 3/8 plus 3/8. We have an operation going on of addition. There is no equal sign though. It would be like what's on one side of an equation. Let's check out the vertical alignment. Where are they coming from? Well, in 3rd grade we had 3.FR.1.1, which was unit fractions, a heavy emphasis on what a unit fraction is and how it relates to the whole. And then also 1.2, was decomposing fractions as a sum of unit fractions. So for this standard, we can use unit fractions when we're decomposing, but they don't have to be unit fractions. But in third grade, there is time spent decomposing a fraction into the sum of unit fractions. And then in fifth grade, we will move up to adding and subtracting with unlike denominators. For fourth grade, we stay with like denominators except for going from tenths to hundredths. But that's not within this standard. Within this standard, we are sticking to having the same denominator. All right, purpose and instructional strategies section. So let's see what jumped out at me. It says that the purpose of this benchmark is to build students' understanding from grade 3 that each fraction is composed as the sum of its unit fractions. So that's what they did in third grade. Decomposing fractions becomes the foundation for students to make sense of adding and subtracting fractions. So they definitely need to know that. That's kind of what jumped out at me. Here for the common misconceptions or errors, it says that students may have difficulty decomposing mixed numbers and fractions greater than 1, and that it's helpful to use a model that justifies it. I personally think that decomposing mixed numbers and decomposing fractions greater than 1 helps students to convert a fraction greater than 1 into a mixed number. For instance, 1 whole could be represented as 3/3, and then if we added 2/3 to that, 3/3 plus 2/3, or compose that decomposition, that would be 5/3, which would be our fraction greater than 1. And I think this is a cool way, using the decomposition of a mixed number to show how we can get to a fraction that's greater than 1, and vice versa. We could say that 5/3, well, we can pull out a 3/3, which would be 1 whole plus 2/3. So this really helps students to be able to go back and forth between mixed numbers and fractions that are greater than 1. Okay, for this instructional task down here, you can see what it looks like in action, but I do want to make a note that right there we have an example with the denominator of 9, and this is outside of the denominator limits. So just be aware of that really I would have just changed that to maybe 5/8 or 5/10 or 5/12, just to keep it inside of the limitations that were mentioned in the benchmark clarifications there. So I think that just may have been an oopsie, and that's okay. Here we have which sums show a way to express 8/3. This one is a great example of what this standard looks like in action because it's showing multiple ways. Here, B is correct because it does equal 8/3. And this is the sum of unit fractions right there, something that they learned in third grade. But it could also be like this, where we have 3/3 plus 3/3 plus 1/3 plus 1/3, which also equals 8/3. And you can see that's what the standard looks like in action right there, okay? All right, I think that's it for breaking down the standard. Let's now go ahead and see what you have access to in your Taking on the B.E.S.T membership. Okay, so here we are on the website. We're going to click Members Enter here. Select Taking on the B.E.S.T, and we are working in fourth grade. We would like the FR strand, so we'll select that one. And this one is MA.4.FR.2.1, Decompose Fractions into a Sum of Fractions. So select that standard. And the first page that you are brought to includes your bronze resources. They are the video lessons and printable student guides. So students just can watch the video lessons and record their notes on the printable guides right next door. So the video lessons that we have available for this standard involve decomposing fractions into a sum of fractions less than 1. Okay, so here I'm just pausing right here at this video. You can see for number 2, we are breaking 9/10 down, decomposing this fraction into the sum of unit fractions and showing that using an area model, and then also a different way, 3/10 plus 3/10 plus 3/10, and modeling on a number line what that looks like. So that's just a little sample there. The next video lesson focuses on decomposing fractions into a sum of fractions that are greater than 1. So here we have mixed numbers and fractions greater than 1 for this one. All right, so you can see here with number 2, we're just pausing on it real quick, but you can see how 9/5 is now broken down into 5/5 plus 4/5, which can be modeled using an area model, and then again a different way using the number line. Okay, So it just kind of gives you a glimpse into what the video lessons will contain. Now with the video lessons, the whole goal is to make math fun and to make it click. My goal is for students to be able to walk away from this feeling like they can try it on their own. My goal is not for them to have mastered it yet, because they're provided with the answers in the video lessons. After the video lessons, it's time to move to the silver resources if you have it, the silver or the gold plan. And when you click here for your printables, you'll have access to the video lesson student guide, which you had in the bronze resource. Plus, you'll have a lot of extra practice that goes with that. So you'll have the video lesson that goes along with those bronze resources, and you'll also have extra practice to support those video lessons to make sure your students have practice that they can try on their own to master it. So here's the video lesson, like that we just saw with the fractions lesson 1. And then after that, here is the extra practice page. So now that they've watched the video and they have the notes, they can now decompose these fractions 2 different ways, including a visual model and writing an equation, which totally aligns with the standard. Okay, and then we have the next video lesson focusing on fractions that are greater than 1. Students will record their notes, then they can do this extra practice page to practice on their own so they can understand it too. After that, we've got the math missions. This is a math task. It's usually a multi-step problem here. This one says that Ethan ordered pizzas for his family. He ordered 4 boxes of pizza, with each pizza divided into 8s. Provide a visual model of the pizza below. Label each pizza as a sum of fractions. Part 2 says the visual model below shows the amount of pizza remaining after Ethan's family eats. Each shaded portion represents a pizza slice. Label each pizza as a sum of unit fractions. So now they're adding up what's left right there. How can you represent the remaining pizza slices as a sum of fractions a different way? And there is an answer key that goes with all of this. And then we have the math misconception mystery episode. You can see it's also a video lesson. When you go back to the silver page right here, you just click play, and I will walk you through the whole thing in the video. First, students will solve this problem on their own or with their group, whatever you prefer, and then they'll press play and watch as 4 characters solve that same problem. The only thing is, 3 of those characters are going to be making mistakes while 1 character has the correct answer. Those characters are just me dressed up in silly costumes with silly accents, and this really provides a great way for students to listen in carefully, to analyze the errors of others, and also creates a space to have math discourse, to be talking about what they're noticing and seeing with their classmates. So it's super awesome. The next page, page 2, is the detective report. So who does the most reasonable answer belong to? And you evaluate the work of the others. Again, right here are your answer keys for all of that we just went over, including the detective report. So if you need help guiding your students in the right direction, you have that there for you too. And then finally, we have the gold plan, which has access to everything, including a mini assessment that's aligned to the standard. These mini assessments are about 4 to 5 questions. I think this one is 5 questions, and you'll see a variety of question types here. Just kind of scroll through so you can see. There's an answer key for this one as well. All right. Answer key right here. You also have access to this breaking down the B.E.S.T video that you're watching right now. It's right here with all of the resources available for this standard and the other standards too. And these videos are also available on YouTube. The only thing is they contain ads, and here, when they're right here for you, they do not. So it's one of the perks of being a gold member. But really, if you've selected the gold plan, it's most likely because you wanted access to McCarthy Math 155, a daily math intervention with tons of video lessons that are aligned to the Common Core standards. Now, I created Taking on the B.E.S.T because there were enough differences between the Common Core and the B.E.S.T standards that a whole new program needed to be created. However, if you've been exploring with these standards a little bit, you know that there are definitely similarities in the standards. So if you have students who are struggling, who need extra practice with a variety of skills, this is why you have it. So the 155 stands for 155 video lessons for each grade. So let's click on 4th grade and just scroll down a little bit. You can see the different units. We've got 17 video lessons on place value. Adding and subtracting numbers, we've got 8 video lessons. Multiplication, 16 video lessons, and so on. Now what we are going to do is go right here because Unit 7 has decomposing fractions right there. Okay, so if your students need help with fractions, decomposing, we've got one right there, day 70, there's an extra video lesson, but you can see we're adding mixed numbers. So when we get to adding and subtracting fractions, there's a lot here for you as well. So one video lesson on decomposing, but there's a lot of support for the other standards that take a little bit more practice. So you definitely want to check this out, okay? I think that is it. So I hope that you found this video to be helpful, that now you understand what the standard is calling for, what it looks like in action, and also what resources you have available to you with your taking on the B.E.S.T membership. Before we go, let me remind you that what you wake up and you do every day with your life, it really does matter. Thank you so much for all that you do for your students, for stepping into the best version of yourself every single day to inspire your students to do the same. And of course, thank you so much for inviting me into your educational space. I love supporting you. I love helping your students. So thank you for that. And I know that you're busy, so I will see you in another episode real soon, okay? All right, bye. Okay, so I know that I just said goodbye for now, but I'm gonna ask you to do one more thing, okay? If you enjoyed this episode, please consider sharing it with your teacher friends or other leaders in education. That's how I get to continue doing what I love to do, which of course is supporting you all to the best of my ability. All right, for real now, bye.